Hello everyone and welcome into the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, brought to you, as always, by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is Christopher Shepard. Thank you all yet again for tuning in. Happy Monday to you all. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Hope you enjoyed the weekend slate of football in both NFL and college football action. We have a lot to talk about today, starting off by previewing tonight's games, a doubleheader in the NFL, a flexed game, Ravens Bucs and Chargers Cardinals, now at 9 o'clock. We're going to be going over the NFL and college football fantasy stars of the week, as we always do. We're going to be talking about my bold fantasy predictions, my Don't Be Surprised If segment. And then, to close out the show, we're going to be doing my first, of course, my many positional rankings this week, by looking at the quarterback position. Before we get into any of that, I do want to remind you, yet again, that if you want to view more content like this or other podcasts as well, consider liking, following, and subscribing to the show on the network. But if you want to interact with the show more directly today, consider making yourselves available to the Super Chat, Super Thanks, and Super Stickers features here on YouTube. They're a great way to contribute. You can tip or donate through clicking the $ on the comment section there, or you just leave a burning question, comment, or concern you have throughout the show. Just makes it that much more better, that much more interactive, and just allows me to hear other people's opinions as well. Without further ado, let's jump right into today's first segment, talking about those Monday Night Football games. Let's start off by talking about the first one, perhaps the more exciting of the two, one that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. A lot of fantasy stakes for me in that game as well. Ravens Bucs. Let's talk about this very interesting yet bizarre intra-conference matchup. Baltimore is favored by 3.5 at home. The over-under is 49.5. Tampa Bay plus 160 to win. Baltimore at minus 190. And of course, this is the more exciting of the two games, so I'm glad that it got flexed there. Maybe a couple questions from certain fans about whether or not this was the correct game to flex to this Monday night primetime slot, but I do feel that it holds merit. This is a game between two very exciting offenses with two very different styles, one in which Lamar Jackson is this very dynamic player that predicates his offense on RPOs, quick throws, and things of that nature. And then you look at the Bucs, where they're building a culture there with a lot of swagger. Baker proven to be a great motivator and leader for this team. And also, the chemistry between him and his receivers is an all-time high. But on the defensive end is where I want to look, because both of these defenses project to be, at the very least, top 15, top 10 units. Maybe not as much as the Bucs, but I certainly think highly of the Ravens defense. That is where this game is going to be won and lost. Which of these defenses can step up? Because we know that both of them have big-time players, but they haven't really proved that they are more than the sum of their parts. Obviously, you know, the loss of Mike McDonald at the defensive coordinator position is huge for this Baltimore Ravens defense, and it's shown through the first couple of weeks of the season, but they have steadily improved as the season goes on to play complementary football. On the Bucs side of things, they just haven't had a full bill of health on that side of the football. You look at guys like Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey going down, Antoine Winfield also going down for a couple of weeks. So, as you can see, vital pieces for both of these defenses either haven't been playing up to par or haven't stepped on the football field in quite some time. So, while the big story definitely is both these offenses and how they look and how they play, and whether or not this game will turn into a shootout, I'm looking at which defense makes more plays for their team. Because, not for nothing, the Ravens, if they win this game, feel like they can be the team to beat in the AFC. The Bucs, on the other hand, are looking for more respect than they're getting. This is perhaps their toughest game to date. They've already lost the Falcons. They will play the Falcons next week in their second of two matchups thus far. And so if they win this game, they are setting themselves up for success in the NFC South and proving that they could have a say in the NFC playoff race. Now, it's going to be very tough to beat this team, and that is why, when all is said and done, I will take the Ravens in this one if I were a bettor. But I do think that the Bucs will keep this as close as possible. They're not going to get lost in this narrative of not being able to beat superior teams, because they are right there. Last year they fell to the Lions in a heartbreaking game, but this year I just feel like they're putting all the pieces together and they're well built to make games out of what previously could have been games where you would see them trip up beforehand. And so this feels like a game that I still would take the Ravens in, but I do think the Bucs will have a say in how it goes. And then we have to talk about this game, but to be honest with you, I don't know if I want to stay up till the wee hours of the morning to watch this one. Chargers Cardinals. And I think, for what it's worth, these are two teams that believe that they have an offensive identity, but we as fans cannot gauge whether or not they really are corporeal plans for these teams' improvements. On the Chargers side of things, I think that Jim Harbaugh is wanting to implement that run-first philosophy, make them more of a smash-mouth team, whereas with the Cardinals, they're heavily reliant on Kyler Murray being that guy who can improvise out of structure, get this team going, incorporate more receivers like MHJ. Maybe Trey McBride will have a say in this game, but ultimately just super reliant on Kyler Murray's abilities as a QB. And so it's going to be a very weird game here. That being said, I do think LA, which is the 2.5 point favorite, by the way, is the team that I feel like has adopted their new identity with fervor. And a lot of people might not like it because a lot of people loved what Justin Herbert was doing in the Brandon Staley era, even though they were not winning as much. But now he's not as prolific a passer as he once was. But that's just what I believe the situation is in LA as well. They saw that they were going to lose a lot of production. They lost Keenan Allen on the offensive side of the football. And now, with the hire of Jim Harbaugh, they're realizing that we can have a team that can dictate the game style, but not put that much pressure on Justin Herbert. And Herbert, not for nothing, is still a guy who I would trust with the game on the line. Let's say somehow the Cardinals' offense does turn it up a notch. I still think that Justin Herbert, when forced into action, is still a quarterback who can get the job done. It's not like he lost all the abilities he had in the Brandon Staley era. It's just that they are a run-heavier team now. And so I just feel like the LA Chargers, like I said, the 2.5 point favorite, also minus 135 to win Arizona at plus 115. I do think just has more of an offensive identity, even when they run into issues along the way. They have the ability to grind out unpretty wins, ugly wins, so to speak. As Andre, my man, enters the chat. How are you doing, my friend? Hope you had a great weekend. At the end of the day, both of these games do have intriguing storylines, but I just feel like the Ravens-Bucs is the one I'm going to have my full attention on. Not for nothing, what I will be looking for in the Cardinals game is if the Cardinals can have more sustained drives where they control the football more. Because it is very much a pressure cooker environment for Kyler Murray there to elevate this offense. And MHJ was cleared to play, but he may not look like the sum of his parts in this one as he is recovering from that concussion. So look for a little bit more control I want to see out of the Arizona Cardinals. Whereas the Chargers, I just feel like will continue to play their brand of football. I just think that as long as Dobbins is strong, that O-line holds up, and Justin Herbert is timely and efficient whenever he's asked to throw the football, the Chargers have a game plan. As Andre said, that was a bad concussion too. A lot of bad concussions throughout the NFL season so far. We're going to talk a little bit later in the week about all the injuries, but man, all of these, especially young receivers, getting concussed, that's one thing that you have to watch out for, especially when you're a team like the Arizona Cardinals or the New York Giants for that matter, who rely so much on these young players. So it's something to monitor. That's something to monitor for the Arizona Cardinals going forward, because he's a big part of what they need going forward in order to elevate their offensive game plan. At the end of the day, as Andre said, what happened to the question that I did not want to be asked today. We'll talk a little bit about this in college football, but to be honest with you, this may sound like a lame excuse, but something that people won't necessarily talk about in this game is the field position battle. Georgia, all due respect to their defense, which played an incredible game. I'll give them that. But you have to wonder, if Texas gets at least one possession in that first half that takes place anywhere outside of their own 25 to 10 yard line, maybe those turnovers that Quinn Ewers had early in the game will not live up to much. Maybe there'll be more field goals kicked for Georgia. Yes, as Andre said, the defense looked great, but the offense just wasn't there, sadly. And I completely agree with that statement. The defense was fine. It's just a matter of the offense either A, being backed up, or B, just getting overwhelmed. And I think that's the factor. As Andre said, there's much more upside for Texas in a rematch. I think you guys win. We did get the game plan to win that game. So I do believe we do have a chance if there is an SEC championship game rematch, but it's all going to come down to winning the field position battle, because that was the story of the game for me. I was just thinking, man, if we just had one possession, either with our backs close, not too close to the end zone, I think we have a chance to win this game or make it closer than it appeared in the end. So that's just my takeaway from it. Thank you for that comment. We're going to talk a little bit about college football later in the show, where we have to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'll be talking first about my NFL Fantasy Stars of the Week, and then, of course, my college football Fantasy Fans of the Week. And we'll be right back.
I feel like I'm losing my mind, 'cause everybody in the world